Hello, I'm Avery or Hazel or Kylie. You can just pick one, I don't care.
Hello, I am Lily.
And I close my eyes to see.
Wait, how?
Wouldn't you like to know?
What do you like to know, weather boy?
But anyway, welcome to From the Closet. Today we are covering The Greatest Showman. Uh, yeah. So obviously this episode will contain spoilers for The Greatest Showman. So you will find a link below to which will take you to Just Watch, which will have all of the places that you can rent, purchase, or stream this movie. Our links are centered around the US. However, if you use the app, it will redirect you to your country's page, and if you use the website, you can change the country from the website page. Also, I'm just going to make a recommendation. I'm going to throw this out here now. If you have the option to watch this movie on something other than your cell phone, do it.
Hmm.
Because
I watched it on my computer.
it is much harder to appreciate the dance choreography when you're viewing it on your cell phone.
Oh, god damn it. Now I have to rewatch the movie on like my big TV because I didn't even think about that.
But anyway, you can join us next week for Dragon Ball Z Abridged Season 1 and for the top 10 best and worst movies we have ever covered. So yeah, also in the description you can find a link to our Patreon, which will contain which will contain all of our previous episodes as well as episodes of this show that have not released yet, so you can get access to those early, as well as episodes of our sister show Off the Shelf, which is about books, which is a podcast exclusive to YouTube and Patreon. Also in the description, you can find a link to Anchor.fm, which itself will contain links to every platform that this podcast is on, as well as links to our Instagram and our Twitter, where you can be notified whenever we release a new episode.
Cool.
With all of that being said, let's just get into the movie. Get out of here if you want to avoid spoilers. Even though a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie did happen in real life. So is it really a spoiler? Or is it a history lesson?
Hmm.
I mean,
Never thought about that.
granted, there are historical inaccuracies, which we should talk about. Um,
Yeah,
so,
I'd I'd call this movie less of a historical movie and more of just a movie that happens to have history.
I don't know. I feel like some people have said that this is the movie that P.T. Barnum would have made about P.T. Barnum. Um,
Though, yeah, that definitely is true.
yeah. So the thing is, like, P.T. Barnum was an asshole. He basically, what is the word I'm using for it? Exploited people who were out of the ordinary, shall we say. I mean, that was his entire business model, was exploitation. He wasn't really a good father or a good husband, from what I hear. However, the uh, the whole infidelity thing with Jenny Lind did not happen.
Hmm.
That was completely made up for this movie. Also, there were two characters in this movie who were completely made up for this movie. Um, those characters being Ann Wheeler and Philip Carlyle. And I feel like it was just an excuse to have Zendaya and Zac Efron do a duet and dance together and be in a romance or whatever. But
True.
yeah, that's about all I want to cover for historical inaccuracies. Now we can get into the movie. So, actually, before we
I
do
think
that, let's talk about Hugh Jackman. Because,
remind me on who Jackman was.
oh my god, we just talked about this like 30 minutes ago.
I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names.
Okay, let me just say what I was going to say because you're just gonna figure it out anyway.
Yeah, makes sense.
It is rather weird for us to cover two movies in a row that have Hugh Jackman playing the main character. Yesterday's episode was on X2 X-Men United, where Hugh Jackman plays Wolverine, and then he's P.T. Barnum in this movie. These two movies could not be more different.
Oh, he played both of them really well.
Yeah. And obviously he plays Wolverine throughout the rest of the X-Men series, so it's going to be fun to explore that further as we go along.
Wait, I don't think we actually talked about that in our X-Men video, because I don't remember him being replaced.
No, I said he plays Wolverine throughout all of the series.
Sorry, the way you said it, almost like you said the rest of the series, like it was different in the first movie.
No. But so another thing too is that I just realized I forgot to
Hmm.
spin the wheel.
Oh, whoops.
So yeah, um, I'm going to
I
do
almost
that
forgot today was a
now.
wheel
Come on,
episode,
wheel open.
if I'm
Hey,
being honest.
did you ever replace the Greatest Showman on the wheel?
Hmm. I
Yeah,
actually
you
think I
did.
had. Yeah,
You,
I did, but I cannot tell you what I replaced it with
yeah,
now.
you did. I just looked. You replaced it with Spies in Disguise. Um,
Oh,
but
right,
any,
yeah.
but anyway, the wheel landed on Phineas and Ferb, Candace Against the Universe.
Again?
Yeah, we're covering Phineas and Ferb now. I mean, granted, it in terms of releases, I think it should have been quite a while. Because let's see, that episode will release at the end of January, and then our first Phineas and Ferb episode will release at the beginning of January.
Okay, but hear this. This is exactly what happened with our Lilo and Stitch episode.
No, there was only one episode in between those. Um, only one wheel movie in between those, I should say.
Hmm.
Here, there were three.
Okay.
So,
Now we did all of that. I want to talk about the songs in this because
I
these are some
actually,
straight bangers.
yeah, I do have notes throughout the entire movie, and I have the songs, like notes about the songs interspersed in these notes. So, I kind of want to follow the outline of my notes if we can.
I would actually want to start off with just start off with something else. Because I do want to know what is your favorite song throughout the movie.
I mean, I actually wanted to cover that. I actually wanted us to talk about what our favorites were at the end because I feel like it's better for us to say what our favorite is after we've discussed each song.
I just feel like just get it out of the way first. You know.
How about this? How about we say what our favorite song was when we first watched the movie, and then at the end we talk about what our favorite song is now.
Sure.
All right. So when I first watched this movie, all the way back in 2017, I saw it in theaters. Um, I came out of it. I think that my favorite song was "Rewrite the Stars."
Interesting. Mine was definitely the bar one.
The Other Side.
Yeah. Which
Interesting.
everything I think about the other side, I can only think the Princess and the Frog movie song, Friends on the Other Side.
Wow. Um, but yeah, at the end of this, we'll reveal what our favorite songs are now. I know mine has changed. I'm not sure about you.
I don't think so. Well, I will say another movie. If it's not my favorite, it's definitely the second best, second favorite.
All right. So we start this movie with The Greatest Show, which obviously is a certified banger. I mean, the song slaps. It's a great introduction to what you can expect out of this movie. Um, and then, of course,
Definitely.
yeah,
I and this is one of the moments in a movie where if they just started at the beginning of the movie, you would get a wrong first impression.
yeah,
So that's why
especially
they started with this grand scene.
yeah, especially since once they're done with the Greatest Show, there is a literal scene of child abuse in the first 5 minutes,
Yeah. So I definitely
and
think this grand show, which is the future, I guess, should have been shown in the beginning rather than, when it was supposed to happen.
yeah, I think there is some magic to showing us this scene at the beginning of the movie and then showing it again at the end.
I'd
Um,
also love to say the movements, the dances in this, so beautiful. Like
yeah,
this
I
is
have
your
some.
first thing of the movie. This is the first thing you see when you turn it on, when you go into the theaters, and it does not disappoint.
Yeah, I do have some notes throughout here talking about the choreography in some particular songs that I thought was absolutely
Hmm.
incredible and stands out from the others, but we'll get to those. But yeah, the child abuse scene. Okay, I get the character is supposed to be an asshole, and yes, there is something to be said about writing assholes like assholes. Um,
Hmm.
like let assholes be assholes, but also I just prefer not to see child abuse in my entertainment. It's a personal taste thing.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I mean it's certainly not as bad as the Parent Trap because there were like casual mentions of spanking by the parents of the girls, and that's what kind of throws me off. It was one thing when the villain character slapped one of them, like that was one thing, but when the parents are talking about abusing their kids, that rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, that ain't right. As like, is there's one thing of assholes being assholes, and there's another thing where you're a protagonist. You know, and especially when your protagonist is supposed to embody all that's good in the world, be
Well,
an asshole.
well, I mean, the character in that particular instance was not the protagonist, but he
And
was
you know what I
the
mean?
father
Just
of
like
the
in other,
protagonist.
just in other, you know, pieces of media, you just have these hero characters just perform really out of character.
Yeah, it's always awkward. And of course, that movie was released in the '60s, so of course things about it are not going to age well, and in particular, the moral values are probably just they're just not going to age that well.
I think we're talking too much of a movie I really dislike, so let's bring back to this movie. What is our next song?
Well, our next thing that I literally wrote down was A Million Dreams.
Oh, cool.
So obviously, it's a certified banger, and it does a great job at showing Phineas and Charity growing up, falling in love, and you know, pretty much just that. It's a really good song, really great way to show these characters grow up. Um,
Can I also say I love the transitions?
yeah, I think they're really cool. So shortly after this, there's this whole scene where the business that P.T. Barnum works at uh, goes bankrupt because a typhoon sank all of their ships. So now they have nothing. So he buys a building, committing like fraud to get a loan. Um, he buys a building, sets up a museum, and there was a joke here that I found pretty funny. He
Hmm.
introduces this guy as a master of sleight of hand and king of deception. and one of his children is like, "You don't look like a magician," to which he says, "I'm a thief."
I did find that pretty funny.
Yeah, like
I kind of tried to steal my watch earlier.
yeah. So the thing is, like, this museum that he tries to create isn't successful at all, and I think it's really cool that his kids are the ones who see what the museum needs. Because, like, honestly, I've said it probably a billion times. Children
Hmm,
are way smarter than adults give them credit for.
that's true.
And there's just a certain, I don't know, beauty to it that his children knew exactly what the museum needed, even though he didn't. And then we get Come Alive, which, that's another
Hmm,
certified banger. And it's a great way to tell the story of the show. Like, do we need to go into like him recruiting all of the members of the circus? I don't really think we do because like it's a scene that has to happen. It and it does its job well. So Come Alive, certified banger, amazing way to tell the story of the first show and a couple of
I
shows
definitely
after
agree
that.
with that.
Yeah,
Speaking of the members of the circus, obviously by themselves there's nothing noteworthy, but all of these colorful faces, all of these people, they make something more than themselves.
yeah. So just after this, we've had this whole just after this we have this conversation between Phineas and Charity, where they're talking about one of their daughters having quit ballet because they started ballet earlier and they were basically
Hmm,
being bullied by the other girls. um, and Charity says something that I found kind of funny and it also rings true.
hmm.
um, she said, "Society will never accept us. If they did, they'd have to stop judging and actually do something with their lives."
Yeah,
I mean, like, if that don't ring true, like, not just in the context of this movie, but even in the real world, I mean, come on. So we were also introduced to this character named Philip Carlyle, and pretty much this is the point in the movie where Phineas will approach him and speak to him, and this is where we get the other side.
such a good song.
Yeah,
Another certified banger in my book.
yeah, certified banger. Progresses the story quite well, even though that character didn't exist in real life.
Hmm,
Who cares? Um, I also think there's something interesting about this song in that there's like a business negotiation mid
hmm.
song. It's something I have never seen before in anything else, and it's incredible. Also, this is one of those songs where the dance choreography stands out from the others. This one and another one that I'll get into later.
I would definitely agree with that, especially that bartender.
Yeah. Um,
Like, he was just dancing like nothing else.
shortly after this, they go and perform for the Queen. We don't see that performance. This mostly serves as a point to introduce Jenny Lind. Um, and then we kind of just fast forwarding a little bit to the first show with Jenny Lind. Barnum basically out loud says that he wants all of the members of this circus, who, remind you, are his employees, he wants them out of sight.
Yeah, this is where he's very twisted, and he's not going to get any less twisted until later in the movie,
Yeah, it's gonna get worse. But we have Jenny Lind's performance of Never Enough, which is yet another banger.
which is also a very good way of saying about what J.K. Barnum,
PT.
P.T. Barnum, thank you.
Yeah. So we get to the party afterward, And um, Barnum pushes out all of his employees again, and that's when they break into "This Is Me." Oh my god, "This Is Me" basically became like for starters, it's an absolute banger, but I do really love that the lyrics are not necessarily dependent on this movie's context to be understood, and because of that, it
Can be
basically
understood
became
by anyone.
yeah, like this song became an anthem for all marginalized people, like Cinema Therapy said. Um,
Mhm.
like I identify strongly with this song as a trans woman because like I've been told to be ashamed of how I look by people like the, by people who are trying to be supportive and they don't realize that some of the things they are saying are telling me to be ashamed of how I look.
Yeah, just
It's like
definitely a powerful song. I'll give it
yeah.
that.
I really do think like I have been I have felt more pain from being told um, how I should look than I have from the actual dysphoria that I get from how I look.
Hmm.
And that says a lot.
Really does.
It's part of why I love this song so much because when I listen to this song, I do feel that sense of um, that I'm not going to hide myself. I will be seen whether you like it or not. And
Now,
go ahead.
now I'm just thinking about the next song, mostly because also I can't remember. Is that? I feel like there's another song in between before the forgiving song.
Yeah, there is. We'll get to it in a
Okay,
minute. Because just after this, we see Philip and Anne
that's
going
okay.
into
That's
the
the song I've been
theater.
forgetting.
Yeah, we see Philip and Anne going into the theater, and they run into Philip's family, and they're just very racist towards them. And once again, this is something I've experienced because it's not, how do I put this? It's not just white people that aren't fond of interracial dating. I have dated people of color before, and I have experienced this racism both from my own family and from their families.
It's
And
just
it is a really hard thing
never
to deal
pretty.
with. Yeah, it's a really hard thing to deal with, and it's disappointing that this kind of shit still happens. And I love that Philip actually calls them out.
And then, um, and I know it's not the choreography that especially like stands out from the rest, but there is something to be said about the pushing and pulling in this song.
No, actually, I do think we haven't even started talking about the song yet, but Rewrite the Stars, again, a banger. But I disagree with you completely. I do think that this song is one of the songs where the choreography does stand out from the others because there is so much happening.
Honestly, I feel
And
like the next song is like one of the best songs for choreography because of just how much is happening and how much of it works.
I don't really agree. Like the next song has a scene where like that song is playing and one of the characters is literally just running, and that's all we really see on screen. He's just running and the song is playing.
Okay, but you're taking like one part, like just a few seconds after that, it's like this intense dancing scene.
But anyway, back on Rewrite the Stars, it also does a good job at progressing the story of these two characters. Um, and then we have a a conversation
Hmm.
between PT and Charity. This is before she finds out about the whole Jenny. Oh, wait, no, the Jenny Lynn thing hasn't happened yet. Um, we have a beautiful conversation between PT and Charity, and she says something, and his response is something that I think it's really beautiful, and it highlights something about this movie. Um,
Hmm.
she says, "You don't need everyone to love you."
You just need a
To
good few.
to which he says, "I know." This is something that I think the movie is like. It's a subtle thing, but there is a difference between knowing something and actually internalizing it. He is like the character in this movie is very insecure because of how he grew up. Um, he was treated like crap, and he doesn't want to be treated that way again. And
He doesn't want anyone in his family treated like that.
yeah, and so like just after this conversation, we get another song that you forgot about, "Tightrope."
Oh
Th-
yeah.
yeah, this one's sung by Charity, and it's yet again another banger. I genuinely think all of the songs in this movie are fantastic. So
Hmm.
the the whole thing is like basically Barnum PT Barnum is not considering his wife's feelings. He's not taking her judgment into account when he's making decisions, and he is risking so much without talking to her first, and that's a problem. But then we have this tour with Jenny Lind where she kisses him on stage. For starters, this never happened historically, but whatever, it's good for this narrative, but it is worth talking about.
Hmm.
Um, so I do want to talk about cheating for a while. A lot of a lot of the time, cheating is somebody making. I know it sounds like I'm excusing the behavior, but I'm not. It's making a mistake that you never thought you were going to make. There are people who just intentionally cheat um, and have no remorse for it. But regardless of what the scenario is, that doesn't make it excusable. And like, while it's while it's the fact that I know sometimes people are doing something they never thought they would do, and I know that they would probably never do it again. If it was me in that relationship, that person would never be able to gain my trust back because I can't internalize that. I can't internalize that they won't ever do it again
Hmm.
because I've been hurt too much by cheating. It's happened to me multiple times. Um, So it's not something I can just get over. And it would ruin any relationship I'm in.
I don't have many comments to say on this because I've never been in a relationship. The most I know about cheating is the one you do on tests.
Have you actually done that?
Actually, no.
I never did either, but we really didn't have many opportunities. Um, but
I mean, there's times I wanted to, I just couldn't. But
we
actually, wait.
immediately.
Fuck, that's a lie. Okay, technically I did, but that was during like the COVID times. Literally, one of my Spanish tests on Google Forms automatically translated everything.
Oh, that's
So,
awful.
yeah, that's the Google Forms fault. not mine.
But yeah, so we immediately go from this scene straight into the circus being burned down. And of
Mhm.
course, from here, everything falls apart. Before that, though, we do get a beautiful scene between P.T. Barnum and this one critic. And I think it's interesting because he's like, I think what it basically boils down to is like, I never liked your show, but you didn't deserve this.
Yeah,
Come on.
definitely didn't deserve the fate that he was given.
Yeah. Um, but like, he's saying stuff about like how I hope you'll rebuild, and then we get the reveal that oh, that whole thing with Jenny is in every newspaper in New York. He rushes home and Charity's basically going back to her parents, and we get to a scene in a bar where Barnum is depressed and his
Drinking his sorrows
employees,
away.
yeah, his employees come in, and they're the ones who bring him back to realizing what's important. And I do think there's something to be said about that. I think that's a really cool thing because it's like the very ones he was pushing away are the ones who are going to be pushing him back into where he needs to be.
I do like one of the lines in this song.
We haven't started
He
talking
says like,
about the song yet.
well, they literally start singing the song right after. Like,
Yeah, but I was kind of expecting you to talk about that scene. Um,
well, I mean, it still goes in hand with that scene to where he
yeah,
says, you know, he's, sung with queens and all of that, but those were someone else's dreams.
yeah. I mean, I feel like the song should have just been introduced first before we started talking about it. like like how we did for every other song, where I said like, and from here this song starts. But
I mean, I still like that line is very important to his character.
yeah, I mean, the whole thing is that he's being blinded by his insecurities. He's trying to seek all this prestige to where like everyone not only knows his name but respects him. Um,
But in reality, that's not him.
yeah, and of course, From Now On is another banger, and it does a great job progressing the story. The apology scene between Charity and Phineas is fantastic. I love. I too agree with cinema therapy. I love that they go straight into a hug instead of a kiss because there are some times when there is more emotion behind a hug than there is behind a kiss. That's not to say one is more
Definitely.
intimate. That's not to say one is more intimate than the other. I think they both have a similar level, but there's more emotion sometimes behind a hug. It's all about context, when it, the time and the place and who it is.
Yeah.
But we go back to the circus crew, and the bank won't give Barnum any more money. And
I don't think
this
anyone
is
was surprised on that.
yeah, this is where Carlisle steps in, and he's like, "Yeah, I can bring the show back because I've been saving all of that money that you were giving me as part of my cut." And we basically then close on the greatest show.
What I like about this is that during this entire song, he gives away. PK Barn just steps out to see his family.
Yeah, and he says like he's going to leave and basically watch his girls grow up. Um,
Hmm.
And speaking of girls, I'm hearing your siblings right
They're
now.
not getting caught up on the audio.
Yeah,
My phone mic is more sensitive.
gotcha. But anyway, I do think I do think that's a beautiful scene, and I love how we close with the very same song that we open with. So now we can talk about our favorite songs in this movie, and I suppose if yours hasn't changed, you can say what your second favorite song is.
I don't know, like it's at least very close. Like my first favorite, my second favorite are too close to tell what my actual favorite is. But it's definitely from now on.
Hmm. I have to put This Is Me as my favorite. There
Hmm.
is too much attachment there with like the circumstances that I've grown up in and been around, and how that song speaks to any marginalized group. And like I'm a trans woman. I know I'm bi and I'm disabled. So like there's so much that goes into it that that song says like, that song speaks to me a lot, and I identify very strongly with it.
Yeah, This Is Me is definitely this is sorry. Though that's also a good song. If I had to rank that, that is definitely high up there. Um sorry. Yeah, this song that you're talking about. I was trying to about the song that I was thinking about, but yeah, no, sound like I hate my sudden memory blanks.
I do want to briefly touch on another song. It took forever for
Hmm.
Never Enough to grow on me. Um, but now I'm at a place where I think I really, really like Never Enough. And I think all of the songs in this movie are pretty great.
It's true. Yeah. Also, something I've learned, the song that was supposed to be sung by a singer. It's like the singer in the movie had a dub over, and it was basically being sung by someone else. Everyone else in the movie who were like the characters were not singers. That character actually sung. Something to think about.
Interesting. So yeah, I think that despite the historical inaccuracies, this movie is still pretty great. Um, I I will give it an advance warning before we get into the critic ratings that
Hmm.
I have a feeling that they probably let the historical inaccuracies get to them a lot more than I will for my rating. Um,
Yeah, I'm not even gonna. First of all, I don't know. Despite I feel like this movie did better than if they really just went full accuracy mode. But that's just me.
but anyway, let's actually get into the critic ratings now.
We actually covered
Um,
the entire movie just by covering the songs.
we didn't just cover the songs though. We talked about other scenes.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, to be fair, about a third of this movie is just singing. So like it has so many songs compared to most other musicals I've seen.
You know, this movie would really suck if the songs sucked. Good thing they don't.
Yeah, probably. So Rotten Tomatoes gives this movie a 56%.
Ugh.
Yeah. IMDb gave this movie a 7.5 out of 10, which is
Okay.
fair. It's fair. It's like lower than what I'm going to give it, but it's fair. And
Hmm.
then Metacritic has it at 48%.
Oh.
So Reminder,
It's like,
Metacritic is an average of multiple critic ratings from multiple different review sites.
so we have
So,
one gut punch, one, okay, that's pretty fair, right back to another gut punch.
and then 90% of Google users liked this movie.
Hmm.
As can be as is very obvious with pretty much anything. Um, the audience is always a lot more forgiving than the critics. Just in my experience.
That is true. I've seen that.
But yeah, I think with the historical inaccuracies in mind, and with the scene, the child abuse scene near the beginning of the movie, with that in mind, I don't think I can put this movie any higher than 8.2.
Hmm.
Because I think 8.2 is where I feel like 8.2 is where this belongs. All the songs are great. The story itself is great. It's just those two things are something that they take away from it being a 10 out of 10 for me.
Well, nothing can truly be a 10 out of 10 except, I don't know, Tangled for you.
We'll see. They could someone could make another movie that I give a 10 out of 10 to.
Tangled 2.
We already covered Tangled 2.
Like a proper cinematic Tangled 2. Ooh, this should be interesting. Okay, but as for this movie, I want to say 8.4.
So not much higher than what I gave it.
No, not much higher at all, but
Yeah. So I think with all that being said, I do think this movie is great. Will it be in my top 10 best next week? We'll have to see. I kind of have doubts about that.
covered 100 movies. I don't think this one's going to be, but who knows?
We have not covered 100 movies because we've covered a lot of TV
Oh, yeah.
shows and we've had,
Covered
um,
100 things. Well,
yeah,
not
we've had
saying
at
that's
least,
true, but close
by
to
the
100.
time this episode comes out, we will have had 2 retrospective episodes.
Hmm.
Because we're going to have MCU Phase 2 retrospective, I think, before this episode comes out.
Did you put that on the schedule? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure I did put it on the schedule. I'm going to look here. And actually, no, the MCU Phase 2 retrospective comes out in a couple of weeks
Oh,
from
okay.
when this episode releases.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I never, when I was looking at the schedule, I never saw it, so.
Yeah, that episode's going to release on like February 6th.
Geez, we're have to expand the schedule. It just suddenly stops at February 14th.
Yeah, we'll do that later when it's relevant.
And with that,
Yeah, with that, we will see you next week for some stuff. What stuff was it? Next week is Dragon Ball Z Abridged Season 1 and the top 10 best and worst movies we have covered. You can join us the week after that for Phineas and Ferb, the movie Candace Against the Universe. And with all that being said, I've been Avery, that's been Lily, and we will be seeing you.